like it means nothing.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Mattias Wåhlén, threat intelligence expert, and this is my colleague.
Nicklas. Yeah, I do malware stuff, the ones who saw me before.
Yes.
Thank you, the ones who are coming here, not hanging in the bar, but we'll see you in the bar afterwards. So, kiitos to you. Cheers.
Yeah. And today we're going to try and take you to, well, a crime investigation. We are going to investigate a ransomware incident, and we hope we can show you interesting for you. So, this all begins with one of far too many ransomware incidents. Was the autumn 2024. Was a small, not a large company, less than 50 servers, ESXi ransomware, and a previously unknown threat actor. And we're seeing a lot of things like this now. We've noticed that as large organizations are actually starting to pay attention to cybersecurity, ransomware actors are now moving down to smaller companies that have previously escaped and have not had time or the money to invest in better security. And they call themselves Cicada 3301. New, we never heard of this group before. So, what were the forensic results of this investigation? Well, it's depressingly similar to a lot of these attacks. Initial was brute force of net support. This is, we're not talking about the coolest hacks today. Brute forcing is actually more common than before. Because as the threat actors move to smaller companies, brute forcing works. MFA is not always enabled. Then they installed Screen Connect for persistence, did internal reconnaissance, angry IP scanner, all these things here. Fairly standard ransomware actor work. And it ends with they exfiltrate data using WinSCP, and then they deploy their ransomware. It did feel kind of deja vu over the whole thing. I mean, yes, all the steps, fairly common ransomware incidents, was something about it, the tooling and the method that still felt like, yeah, kind of reminds of something we did. When was that? So we decided that we had to go through a bit more investigation. What could we find out about this new ransomware group we've never heard of before? We managed to secure some indicators of compromise, more specifically these two IP addresses. The first IP address is the very first IP used in the attack. And it was used to use the brute force credentials to get through to net support login. And then the other IP address was the C2 for the Screen Connect used as persistence. So far, so good. But this meant we want to know more, and the first thing we want to know about a completely new ransomware group, we talked to our reverse engineer expert standing next to me here and tried to figure out, okay, can we reverse this malware and see if we can find anything else?
So, one of the first things you do when you start looking at ransomware, or malicious binaries. You try to figure out what was it compiled with. And this ESXi ransomware, it was compiled with Rust. And remember, maybe some of you attended my and Anders' previous talks that were just digging into the ESXi ransomware. ESXi ransomware is kind of Linux. And the special thing with Rust is sort of it's becoming a little bit more popular within the malware development scene, but I still would say it's not the majority of one, especially when it comes to ESXi one. And I've run into one Rust binary before targeting ESXi and Linux systems, and that is Black Cat. So that kind of led us through this sort of path. There's a lot of things that looks very similar to Black Cat. So we started to looking and comparing the binaries. How does it look like? One of the first things with this is on the top one you see the Black Cat one. On the bottom one you see on the top you see Cicada, and on the bottom you see Black Cat. It has this sort of help arguments. And one of them, it's fairly common. You see the dash path, just to show what files or folders you want to encrypt. But then this dash UI, that's actually only seen once before, and it was in Black Cat. And it gives the user a kind of verbose graphical interface while the ransomware is running. But also they had this kind of no VMSS, and that was like a compiled functionality that the Black Cat had in 3 different ones, and we will go back to them as well because they also played a little bit of a puzzle piece in this investigation. One of the first things you needed to do is you needed to provide a key to the ransomware. And on the top one you see the Cicada, and on the bottom one you see the Black Cat. If you give it the wrong key, it will terminate. Though they are giving a little bit of a different output. But this key is actually also quite crucial part. So one of the first thing it does, still on the top is Cicada, and the bottom one is Black Cat. It makes this comparison on the length of the key. So you need to provide a certain length. If you don't provide this length, it will terminate. But if you have the correct length, this is from the Cicada one, it will take like a built-in coded blob and try to decrypt it. So actually, this is a base 64 encoded blob, but sort of once you provide this, takes this blob out from the configuration. I know it's a bit small. We'll explain what we're seeing here. That argument you provided, that's actually a SHA-20 key, which decrypts the configuration and the ransomware note. And this is that, and also for the Cicada one, this is okay. You need that flag for it to continue. And if you look at the Black Cat one, we can see the same thing. You need to provide the correct key to decrypt the ransomware note and to get some configurations in it.
Yeah, and this is probably a form of OPSEC from the ransomware group, because until they actually deploy and activate the ransomware, if someone stops them before you unencrypt it, then no one will see the ransom note, and that means no one will know who was behind the attack.
So we have in both cases also this, you need to provide a static key for this sort of symmetric decryption of ransomware notes. If we look on like the encrypted files, so to the left you see Cicada, and to the right you see Black Cat. What it does is it adds this 7 characters extension to the end of the files. That sort of that one is generated uniquely per victim. And then, and you see on that ransomware note itself, it says recover dash those 7 characters dash, and then it's file, and that is data. It's also like, when I see this, it's like, it looks very similar. So it's the same way of generating this extension and also the ransomware note. If you look at the parameters, this is sort of the parameters you are used to shut down and delete the snapshots. So the top one, we see the Cicada one, and the bottom one, we see the Black Cat. And if we compare these ones, because I've done, I don't know, 30, 40 something ransomware cases, especially with ESXi, they always have this kind of way of terminating VMs. But this sort of world ID display name, format CVS, that's I've only seen once before. It was in REvil, and then it came up in Black Hat. And if you compare these two, they are identical. I mean, it could be copied, but for me, it seems like the Cicada version of using the ESXi CLI to terminate is more like an updated version of the Black Hat one. So same again, like it's very similar. So if we summarize this, we see both are written in Rust. They both use ChaCha20 for file encryption as well. I mean, it is, I would say, like, there are ransomware using ChaCha20, but also like there's just a smaller set of amount. The way they shut down the virtual machines and terminate and remove the snapshots are, I would say, identical. Also, this way of decrypting the configuration and the ransomware note, that is also like the way they used it, it's very similar, and it differs from other versions we have seen. They also have this sort of built-in, because remember, when you compile with a Rust binary, you can have the same binary. If you just use a different flag, you can run it on Windows or on Linux systems. So it's you only need to develop one ransomware. But that means, actually, we could find lists of services and processes you want to terminate. That's also built into this configuration. Those ones are identical as well, both the one for the services and like to the line, except the one for the processes, it has the same 50 ones, and the Cicada one has additionally like 20 of them. So, but they are the same on the same place. Also, because we looked at the ESXi ransomware, where they used on the VMware samples. There are other companies, Palo Alto and Morphisec, who has done similar research, but on the Windows binary of the house or the side. And they kind of came to the same conclusion as us. This looks very, very similar to the Black Hat binary. And especially for the Windows one, they use this BCD edit, which is a tool for how you sort of want to use the boot configuration. And I've only seen that in Black Hat before as well. And what you do is actually you boot the host into safe boot to disable AVs and EDRs, then run the encryption and reboot it again. And I've only seen that once before, and I've seen it several times, but only in Black Hat using that. All of a sudden, Cicada pops up and do the same thing. So, I mean, from a reversing malware analysis part of the side, looks. I mean, it's so many pieces that add up together. They look very similar. So, what do you say? Is there a connection?
Well, to find out more, we will return to this other group, Black Cat. Black Cat were folded. They suffered a takedown by law enforcement in December 2023. And then a couple of months later, after they've been hacked and all their service been taken, they kept stuff running for a couple of months until in 1st of March 2024, when they pulled an exit scam and left. The message, I don't know if it's readable, but this is actually one of their affiliates who work for them, who is mad because they had a huge ransom payment. It was the Change Healthcare ransomware attack, if you remember. And he was expecting to have roughly 80% of the money because he was only did a hack. But the leadership took all the money and ran. And then they folded.
As you see, the ransomware paid was 22 million US dollar. So
yeah, he was very mad. So we have a cat, we have a cicada. So next step, we start looking at these two IOCs, and especially one of the IP addresses we listed before. What happened there?
So remember, we had two IOCs. One was the brute forcing, and one was the Screen Connect. And Screen Connect, that's let's say legitimate tool that threat actors love to use as a C2, because it's sort of, if you upload it to VirusTotal, it will say it's a file that's sort of it's a legitimate program. But on that C2 that Screen Connect uses, the timeline is backwards. That's how this tool is visualizing it. So to the right you have 2023 and then onwards. Actually, I would say like the interesting parts are maybe not the color parts. The interesting parts are the gaps. So remember the exit scam, it happened in December. And all of a sudden from this IP, we see a gap. And then we see the exit scam comes in March. And then it becomes a big gap as well on the same IP. Though there's another interesting feature which is highlighted there. There used to be a RDP server on that same IP that disappeared in November. And if you look at that computer name, Win251, so on and so forth, if we just Google that computer name that was on the same IP that the Cicada threat actor uses, guess what we found? This is the first result. It's a report from Sydney. And if you go down into the appendix, we see it's the same computer name. Though, I mean, is it a smoking gun? No, but it's another piece to this puzzle. If you go to Shodan and just search for this computer name, what do you think will happen? Well, you have roughly 5,000 up and running. Do you see there's a big red gap on a certain country to the east of us? What we strongly believe is that this machine is actually, it's a virtual clone that has a lot of the ransomware associate tool setting on them. So this is the one that distributed for all the affiliates?
Yeah. This is typical for the more advanced business-oriented ransomware groups. They set up all the tools on a VM, and then they clone it and pass it out to all affiliates who use hacking. And then you get fire up the VM, and you get everything. And that's why you get so many IP addresses. I mean, probably they use more than one IP per criminal, but there's probably more than one person using the same VM, but it's probably a name that is tied to Black Cat. Black Cat hands this clone to everyone who works for them.
I would say if you have a computer within your environment, have an outgoing RDP session to this computer, I strongly advise you go directly to incident response. So there is likely a connection then, because we see overlaps in the malwares or the ransomware, and we see overlaps with the infrastructure.
Yeah.
What happened then?
But, I mean, and we have a ransomware group that's folded, and then we have another one popping up, but there's a long distance in between, so there's still things that need to be explained if we were going to find how they're connected to each other. And to do that, we have to dig a little deeper into who are these Cicada 3301. Well, the name Cicada 3301 comes from an old internet puzzle. Someone who is still not been told we're putting out puzzles, cryptographic puzzles, other type on internet, and then you were supposed to finally find them, and it's all hush hush and mystery. But the point is, they have gone out and very vehement said, we have nothing to do with this. We're just internet pranksters. Someone stole our logo. And this, again, this is the message. This is a post on XSS, which is a Russian language cybercrime forum. And this is where they present their offering. They are, because they are what we call a ransomware as a service group. So what is ransomware as a service? Well, everything as a service. Of course, the criminals do it too. Basically what it is a popular business model among cyber criminals that do ransomware. It's not the only one, but it's a popular model. And what it means is that a group of cyber criminals that form the core, they create all the tools, and they create the ransomware, developed everything, they host stolen data and have all the infrastructure needed, and then they sign up freelancers. You want to join up our team, sign up for us, maybe you have to pay an entry fee, and then the affiliate does all the actual hacking. They use this toolkit, this VM with all the tools from the ransomware actors. They do the stealing of data, they run it, they determine the ransom sum, and they take most of the money. But so they take about 85%, and then the ransomware group takes the smaller share. Their money comes from the fact that they can scale their operation how much they want. They can take as many affiliates as they want. And I think at the time, the largest group was probably Lockbit. And I think at their most, they had over 50 affiliates. And now you see, with 50 affiliates, all paying 15 to 20%, that becomes quite a lot of money. And thanks to Group IB, another cybersecurity company, who had the balls to manage to sign up as an affiliate to Cicada and managed to get access and see the inside of their panel. This is an actual image of the panel a ransomware affiliate has when they log in to the Cicada work panel. This is where keep track of your ingoing and outgoing ransom payments and so on. And they have also provided some history in there with notifications. We can, for example, see, well, you need to read Russian to see, but this is the welcome to Rescue. Interesting thing about this one is the date. May 4th. May 4th, they opened up this panel for the first time. And they're talking about things like, we are going to add this in the future. This is still in development phase. June 13, they post a list of bug fixes. June 15, they say they have added the file server needed to post stolen data if the victim refuses to pay. Most major ransomware groups now do what we call double ransom. They both encrypt And then they also steal data and threaten to release sensitive data to the internet as an additional extortion method. And finally, on the 18th, they also note that now they have phone bank support, meaning that you can call their phone bank support and then have secure communications if you want to negotiate with the victim. This is all very interesting. Another source of information is the actual victim blog, when they post victims. The first victim was posted on June 15. 3 more victims, June 18 to 19. No other victim until August. So again, suggesting that this time around mid-June was probably things were still in development. And finally, if we go in and look at this cybercrime forum, XSS, the very first advertising is simply a link to an onion link to an intro page where you can contact them if you want to sign up with them. Another important piece of timeline is 10 days later, July 29th. They list that they have deposited money in the form of 1/4 of a Bitcoin to the XSS Cybercrime Forum. Why is that important? Well, that is because of the role that these cybercrime forums have in the Russian language cybercrime ecosystem. These are criminals, and they all operate anonymously on the internet. So of course nobody trusts anybody. And it's become traditionally that the moderators of these cybercrime forums, they are kind of the guarantors and educators. So what you do if you want to deal with people on the cybercrime forums is you deposit money as escrow. Like when you buy on eBay, you know, they hold the money until it's paid and it's done. So that means that until this, now that they've deposited escrow at XSS, means now they are ready to sign deals with potential affiliates. And if we put all this on a timeline, you can see this is the startup phase of a ransomware syndicate. Portal opens, we got the first version of the ransomware ready, we work, we have an update, 13th June, we have an update, we have fixed the bugs, we put a data leak server there, and then the same day, immediately after we do it, we post a victim there just to see that everything works, it's fine, looks good, add the phone calls, make sure everything's there, add a few extra ransomware victims just to, you know, show that we mean business, we know our stuff, and then we post an ad. Which basically means that these first 4 victims, they were probably hacked by the ransomware criminals themselves to prove that, you know, they had the goods to deliver. And then there was a gap, nothing happened, because then they started trying to recruit criminals. And then when the operation started later in the autumn, now they had affiliates working for them instead. And if we then take this timeline and add to our regular timeline, we can see that, yeah, we have started to fill up. So they started in May, started a startup, and then the big operation starts in the autumn. Cool, we're getting somewhere. We still have a gap, we still have more we need to figure out. And what happened in this other black space here? Well, we'll have to find out who is behind Cicada 33.1. well, sorry, I'm going to spoil it. We're not going to point to the name at the man who did it. But we do know the moniker. We know the name. The Abyss Walker. That is the hacker handle for the spokesperson and leader for Cicada. His name is registered June 13. Remember, that's basically the beginning of that crunch week when they got ready for everything and ready to start up. So he registered that name in preparation for being able to start communicating about the job. So it was the first time this name was registered. Does that mean that he's a new guy? He's never been in ransomware before? Well, let's go to what else he's posting on XSS. Here is a discussion about R-Evil, you know, the old ransomware gang from back in 2021. And someone says, he talks about not everyone was in prison. Polyanin, for example, is free. Who is Polyanin? Well, this is the mugshot of Vagina Polyanin. One of the members of R-Evil, who now lives happily in Barnaul, even though his mugshot is on the FBI, because he has the right connection, so it doesn't matter. And that's what they're discussing, the arrest of some members of R-Evil, on the fact that, you know, there's something fishy about it, because a lot of the guys who were higher up made it, and nobody bothered them, even though everybody knows who they are. And then this guy, Abyss Walker, says, that was just the Petersburgers who were arrested. So the other guy says, oh, how do you know so much? Were you involved in the scene? Haha, nudge, nudge, nudge. Don't be mad, don't be mad. And apparently Abyss Walker realizes he's spoken a little too much. He says, oh, maybe I just read about it in the news or something. What does this tell us? Well, this tells us that Abyss Walker didn't start. Whoever he is, he didn't start with ransomware June 13 when he registered the name. He's been active before. He's just either not been active on this XSS forum, who has been using another name, and he wants or have used a new name when he's associated with a new ransomware group. And we also have a friend of him. Abyss Walker promotes Cicada 3301 in one this on the forum. And then another hacker with the hacker handle Mr. George said, oh yeah, good guys, love them. I worked with them, they're the real deal, I trust them. And here is the name of this Mr. George, and you can see, oh, who is he? Oh yeah, he's registered as a malware developer. He writes in Rust. Cool. Cool, we're getting somewhere. Who is this Mr. George, really?
I mean, as you said, he, by random fluke, he writes malware in Rust. And he does a lot of freelancing posts, so he wants to get engaged in helping developing ransomware. He's a malware developer that likes to do malicious code. And he really wants to show us that he knows his malware skills. So every one of his clients are not on the XSS forum. So to show that he has happy customers, he has posted screenshots on the posts of Bitcoin transfers to his wallet to show that they are so satisfied they have paid me. And what can we do with that? We can actually extract his Bitcoin wallet. And interesting enough, there happens to be a transfer to a Bitcoin wallet associated with Mr. Jorge for almost half a Bitcoin. That's roughly like 50,000 US dollars. And remember, I recommend Abyss Walker, really nice guy to work with. Pure coincidence? or maybe he had roughly half a Bitcoin reasons of being a happy recommender user of that one. Remember, there was a second
we had a second IP address, the very first IP addresses. And that led us also to another report published by another CTI researcher who goes by the name of Annoyed Engineer. He wrote an article about Brutus, a botnet used for password guessing. Remember what I said? How did the incident start? That someone brute forced the password? Yeah. This password guessing botnet was first observed March 15 of 2024, was mostly active in March and April, and then it kind of slowed down. And what this botnet do is they have like thousands of bots. Virtually all of them have cPanel exposed to the internet. So presumably someone knew an exploit to hack computers that had cPanel exposed. And that's how they created the botnet. And what they do then is that they do 1, 2, top 3 login attempts using a rainbow table. And then they switch to the next bot, the next bot, the next bot, or the next bot to escape being blocked by too many tries from the same IP address. Or you can put in many victims and scramble between them and do different tricks to just use the size of the botnet to let your password spraying attacks pass on their own. And as I said before, we're actually seeing more password spraying than before, which again suggests that they are probably trying to go towards smaller. And remember, more organizations today have some form of EDR detection and response solution. So just because you got in, you're not automatically have king of the castle. You still have to hack the way through and make sure you're not found. Because if you're found before you manage to execute your ransomware, you have just wasted time. And time is money. So I presume that if I wanted to make sure that I made a score, a good way is to just hack those who can successfully hack through password spraying. Because if they don't have MFA enabled and password spraying works, they're probably pretty weak on the inside too. So we had a potential Bitcoin transfer there that looked suspicious. There may have been a payment for a malware developer who writes in Rust. And we have a botnet that did password spraying attacks that may have been the origin of the actual attack. And if we put them on our timeline, yeah, they fill the gap. This is in April, that was the Bitcoin transfer. It would be pretty, it looks pretty, I mean, again, there's no smoking gun here, but if someone paid a malware developer, say, half a Bitcoin, and then about a month later, they deliver their first version of the ransomware and they set up the preparation, yeah, that would fit. So we put all this on one big timeline. We have Black Cat, who get first hacked and then fold and exit scam. The leaders take the money and run, and everybody else says, oh, what's going on? Well, maybe we should start up our own gang instead. We're going to need access. We either do it ourselves or rent a guy who's good with bots to fix us a lot of credentials we can start using. and then we hire a guy to write our own ransomware for us. We worked for Black Cat before, so we have the basic there. We can give it to him to help us use it, and he can, or who knows, maybe they found the guy got the guy who actually wrote the Black Cat ransomware to work with them, to go with them. Set up shop, hack a few victims, so we have something to post, to show for, and then go out, start recruiting, and now we're in business. That's the story of the ransomware as a service startup. So what can we learn from this? Well, one thing is that we have really scoured a lot of information here. We have deep forensic analysis, technical analysis, IOCs, OSINT, hanging on cybercrime forums, and just to get a holistic view of this whole operation. And we can put together a much more fuller picture of this ransomware act than we could have done if you've just done one or the other things. And building timelines like these can really help us visualize campaigns like this. We can also say that, you know what? Starting up a ransomware as a service group, yeah, that's not a trivial task. You know, take months to do it. And that's good, because that means every time law enforcement manages to disrupt one, it actually takes a while for them to get back in business again. And of course, nothing, I really want to say, nothing in this story is set, it's a smoking gun. It's just a long list of very, very telling circumstantial evidence. And finally, you know, I'd like to think that cyber threat intelligence like this can actually aid in disrupting ransomware actors. What do I mean by that? Well, one thing we've observed, after we wrote about Cicada, others, we know we've linked to others, Group ID even managed to get access to things. One thing that's happened is that this ransomware group has not really taken off. There's not a lot of affiliates that seem to have signed up to them. They post victims now and then, but it's not like the big guys. Maybe that's because so much is written about them and so much sleuthing is done about who they are that affiliates kind of back off. And there's also the thing that, you know, they've been tied to Black Cat. Who was Black Cat again? Oh yeah, the guys who scammed their affiliate out of the ransom money. Yeah, I don't want to work for them.
So I know roughly 22 million reasons why this is a bad associates, let's say it like that.
And that was the story of Cicada and the ransomware startup and how they did it.
Thank you.